So for the past few months, actually, I've been noticing a pattern. And it started with me not going out. Apart from going to the store and back home, I haven't been anywhere else in months, which I thought was weird. And I'm like, why am I living next to the beach if I'm not going there? So I thought that was weird. Then I noticed a pattern of whenever I started exercising, and I love exercising, by the way. I love to move, whether it's dancing or whatever, it doesn't matter. I love to move. However, when I started seeing results or someone else started noticing results, I would stop. And I noticed that that was a pattern that I had going on for many, many years. And I just uncovered it because I was going through the same thing again. So I think I was kind of moving around the house for the past, it was like 2, 3 weeks. And I saw that the fat levels have gone down. When I've noticed that, I stopped. I stopped moving. So I'm like, okay, something's up over there too. But where it was even more interesting is that I used to post on Facebook and then I just stop replying. Like I usually go in and reply and I'm like, okay, that's weird as well. And I didn't think anything of it until I kept on talking to people and people would ask me like, hey, what do you do and all that. And I would share a bit of it, but then they would keep on asking questions, so I kept on sharing. And it was in that moment when they would say, hey, I want to work with you. And mind you, I didn't have any intention of selling them and all that. I was just sharing, from my heart, like, hey, this is what I do, and this is how it helped me. This is how it helped my mom. This is how it helped my clients and all that, in various areas. And they were so drawn to that. And they're like, okay, well, how can I work with you? And it wasn't until, I don't know, this happened a few times. So when they say, how can I work with you? Instead of me being engaged as I was, one time I actually started noticing my body language. So when I was sharing, I was engaged, I was talking, I was, doing all this. And then when they would ask that, I would stop talking. I would literally pull back. And it was really, really interesting. It was really, really interesting to see that happen multiple times. And I'm like, what's that up? Like, what's that about? So then I kind of noticed that and I'm like, okay, well, there's something there. There's something there, and I want to know what that is because it's hampering me from going out there and sharing with people what I do because I know it works. I know they get results. And I know it's going to help a lot of people. So it goes in conflict with what it is that I'm set here to do, which, I need to be in front of people for what I'm set here to do. So, and then I started poking around, and it wouldn't necessarily let me go into it by myself. And that's what I notice sometimes when something is really, really like big. I tend to see if am I going to need someone else to help me with this, or can I go through it alone? I was saying, no, 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 that you need someone for this. So I wasn't necessarily aware of this at that time because this came a bit after, but there is a certain thing that happened before I got very, very aware of this pattern. And this happened during a training that I was attending in the beginning of September of 2024. And it was in the last day of the training that we were supposed to go and practice what we were learning. So what had happened there is that in the last day, there was a last breakout room, like, okay, the last time you're going to practice this. And I asked myself, well, so what do I want to work on? Because, I'm going to practice on other people and other people are going to work on me and all that. So I'm like, well, do I still want to work on the same person? Like, no, I do not. Because this training helps people deal with the judgment that they place on other people, or the admiration that they place on other people, or the judgment that they place on themselves, or things that they admire about themselves. Because again, any time that you judge or admire people, either outside or inside, you're not balanced. So either that, or something of grief and loss, like, do I feel anything like that? So it was none of that. It was none of outside things. Um it wanted me to look at this stop start pattern that I have with you know going and exercising and feeling good and losing weight and then stopping. So I'm like, okay. And up until that point, it was something interesting that happened in the day of the beginning of this workshop. My left eye started to hurt. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Apart from a plethora of other things that happened, but that was the interesting part. And 5 days later, which was the day that I was thinking of, what do I want to work on? So 5 days later, it started to hurt so badly in my left eye, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. But at the same time, I knew what my left eye was all about, because if your body split in two, the right half is masculine and the left half is feminine. So, and the eye has to do with seeing. So there was something there with a feminine person or energy, because even males tend to have feminine qualities and all that. So it doesn't have to be biological male, biological female. You can also refer to the energies. So then I asked myself, so what is there with a female that I do not want to see? And the female I got was me, and I started crying in that moment. So I'm like, okay, apparently I'm going to work on myself. So, and it was the stop start pattern. So I messaged the person that was running everything, and I'm like, hey, if you know anyone who can help me with this, pair me with them, because it floodgates, have opened here. And at the same time, my mentor was doing the same course. So I told him, like, hey, if I can't get this resolved in the next session, I'm going to book a session with you, because this, I'm going through something right now. So he asked, what am I going through? And I explained to him, and he's like, hey, do you want to work with me? And I'm like, okay, yeah, that we could do that. I didn't know we could do that, but yeah, we can do that. And he requested, and also I requested us to be paired together. And it was interesting because this happened during lunchtime. So I was still crying when we came back, and I was still crying. I was trying to stop it, but I was still crying. And the moment we got in the breakout session, I just started crying. I just started crying. Like, it was interesting. It took him about 40 minutes to an hour to just calm my amygdala down, because that got activated. And I know that every time I'm emotional, my amygdala, which is the um, oldest part of the brain, which is linked to your survival mechanisms since, way back when we didn't have houses and we were living in the middle of nowhere in a tribe, and we would go hunting, that gets activated every time I'm emotional, and I know that. So I'm like, okay, I'm in survival mode again. I'm in fight, flight, or freeze. So there's something there. And it took him 40 minutes to an hour to calm that down, so I can actually see what was there. And what I saw was this moment when I was about, I don't know, 17, 16, 17, 18, something around there. I'm not necessarily sure. I know I was a teenager. I know it was a school day trip for the photos. Because we were doing some photos as a group, and it was outside. It was very, very beautiful outside. And it was me, my best friend, and two of my best friends with me. So in that moment, I was actually posing on a bridge, and my female friend, she was the one taking a picture of me. And I could like really feel the concrete bridge be like underneath me. And I could feel, and I can remember how I posed my body in a way to cover my midsection. So what I call midsection is below the breasts and up and so below the breast and until the womb, which is actually your solar plexus. That's where the solar plexus resides, from chakras. And if you don't know why that it links to, well, solar plexus is your authority, your authenticity, your power, and all that. So I'm like, huh, that's interesting. So the way that I was posing, I was covering that section, and then he asked me to describe that part of me in one word, and I said disgusting. Like, okay, so what is the opposite of that? Well, the opposite of that would be accepting. So then he asked me, so, go to a moment when and where you perceive yourself, accepting a part of you, a body part of you. And I found several moments. One of the moments was at that time I was playing badminton, and I was heavily training because I, competed in tournaments and all that. So I was heavily training, and I remember this moment where I did a training maneuver, and I did it faster than I thought possible. And I was really, really proud of my legs in that moment. Then was another moment where me and my best friend at that time, we would play together for training. And up until that moment, she would always beat me. But in that moment, I did something different. She wasn't expecting it, and I beat her. So I was really, really proud of my legs and my wrist at that moment, and my intelligence, because of the decision making in that moment to do something different and totally change the outcome. And that didn't resonate with me so much as the next thing that I landed on. So the next thing that I landed on was in the moment that I saw my dad beating my mom, and I went into it, and I'm like, okay, so can't help my mom. I've tried. What else can I do? And I just started running. I started running to the place where the police was, and I was so appreciative of my legs at that time, probably my lungs too, because there were, can't necessarily breathe correctly if you don't know how to, do that. Um, I was really, really appreciative of my legs in that moment. And that's when I started crying, like, oh my God, like, I really, really appreciate my legs in this moment. So with that kind of cracking, we went back to the first time and first moment where I was in the bridge. Okay, so he asked me, like, now, how do you perceive your midsection? Like, it's not discussed anymore. It's just I don't like it very much. I'm like, okay, go back to another moment, where you perceive this happening, and it got me back to a moment again at this was at 2021. 20. Yeah, this was at 20 years old. When um I my ex-boyfriend was breaking up with me over the internet, and he was breaking up with me because I was starting to gain weight. So at that point, I wasn't in high school anymore, and I stopped, well, working out because I wasn't in high school anymore. I wasn't playing badminton anymore. So I would, instead of going to college and coming back, I didn't do anything else. So naturally, that, after years of not doing anything or not that much, it started to put on weight. And also from 15 to 18, another thing that I would do is go out every Saturday and dance for like 4 or 5 hours straight. So that was another thing that I didn't do anymore. So he noticed that and like, okay, well, we're gonna break up because of this reason. Like, okay, so in that moment, I perceived him as not accepting me, and the opposite for that would be accepting me. So I went around and I saw all the people in that moment that were accepting me, and it turns out a lot of the people from high school were there. And I'm like, okay, well, he kind of had to be the asshole to balance everyone else out, because the universe loves balance. So because of I had all these people in this side praising me and accepting me for how I look and all that, well, then I had him to balance, one person can balance all of those people out. So that was kind of interesting to see. However, that didn't quite crack the fantasy and the nightmare type of thing that I was having going on. So then we went back into that moment and said like, okay, so now how do you perceive him in that moment? And I said, I perceive him escaping. So he's like, oh, that's interesting. So what is the opposite of that? So the opposite of that for me in that moment would be to be with me. So he asked me like, so who in that moment do you perceive wanted to be with you? And same people came up, mom, grandpa, granny, whatever. Um, and then something interesting popped up and like, okay, my two dead dogs popped up. I'm like, that's interesting. And then the two rabbits. So now, mind you, we were raising rabbits to eat them, and I was consciously aware of that. So the fact that they popped up, I was like, okay. But that didn't crack it for me. What cracked it was the next thing. Was my pet chicken. Yes, I had a pet chicken when I was little. And I loved her to death. Like whenever I would go into where the chickens were, I would open the door, she would see me, she would come running, from from the other side. It was the most adorable thing ever. And I would, lay down and I would open my arms like this, and she would, run into my arms, and she would put her little head on my shoulder, whichever one. And I hugged her and I, carried her, and it was the most sweetest things ever. Like I've never seen a chicken do that. And it was the only chicken that ever did that. And after that, and yes, my eyes are watery because I haven't yet processed that death. So that's to be continued. Um, and the other thing that popped in was the cat that I had, that at that point my mom decided to get rid of her without telling me. So that was really traumatizing as well. But those two things popped in, and it's like, okay, now I'm balanced. Now I can see it. So because of all these layers and all that, like he had to be the asshole to balance all this damn thing out. And when I went back um into the original moment of me on the bridge, there wasn't anything there. Like I was fully accepting of my midsection and all that, like everything was resolved. Now, fast forward that a bit, and I start seeing this pattern of me doing like this whenever someone asks me, like, okay, so that's weird. And in between, because I've noticed that, so I talked to someone else to help me with the resistance that was there. So yes, I've noticed a pattern, and at the same time I felt this block, like you're not going to get in there. Like there's something before that, like you've got to work on the resistance first. I'm like, okay. So I called someone else. Now, like, this is what I'm going through and all that. And I told her in that moment, one of the nights, a few days before we met, I started crying. Like I started crying all of a sudden. And the only thing that I felt about myself is hatred. Like so much hatred. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, this is insane. And it wasn't a what, it was just a feeling, and I just hate myself, and that's all that I repeated. Like, I hate myself, I hate myself, I hate myself. And I'm like, hold on, this feels familiar. And I went to the same thing back in January when I launched my group and I had my first session, and I took someone through something. She had a breakthrough. And the moment that everything was gone, I started crying. Like, what the heck is going on here? So I went to the ocean because I felt being there, and I was going back and forth with me to call someone, to not call someone. So finally I called someone, and I was explaining to him, hey, this is what I'm going through and all that. And I'm like, I don't know why this is here, but it wants to be expressed. It has nothing to do with you. And what came out was, again, a lot of hatred. And at that moment, I didn't know what it was directed to. Like, I had no person, I have no story, I have no event, and then nothing was coming to me. But now, currently, I remember that, oh, well, that back then was directed to myself. I was just not able to see it back then. Like, well, that's interesting. So then I tell her before our session, and she's like, okay, I'll do something very, very particular that's different from what we usually do, because I think that's going to help you. So our session comes, she does this, and it's called a crystalline soul healing. But when I looked it up, it's actually an ancient healing technology from the Lyran people. Okay, so Lyra is actually a constellation in our galaxy. It's Lyra. And I know that I've been to that planet because of several things in my birth chart and all that, and several things that I have witnessed with myself this lifetime that makes sense. That would tie me back there. Um, and when she installed that and that thing was running, the moment she finished installing, I started crying. That it was no brainer. I started crying. And what I could feel is fear. And I also heard like, keep quiet because they're going to find you if you're not quiet. And I could literally hear myself like trying, and I could feel myself like trying not to cry so hard because there was a lot of emotions coming up. And I mean, I knew consciously that I was safe, but it took me back to a place where I wasn't safe and I couldn't see anything because it was pitch black. So I just remember this fear and this fear that I had inside me. Like, and what I was terrified, like the terror that I felt, like, oh my God. And that's what I heard, like, keep quiet because they're gonna, find where you are. And then I saw, again, it was pitch black. I saw a corridor, but it was pitch black. And the only reason I knew it was a corridor because I could see where the door was, like a little light coming through. Um, because of the way it was, but everything else was pitch black. And almost to the end, I felt that they found me, whoever they were. They found me, and I was literally dragged by my hands. So I had someone on this hand and someone on this hand. I was dragged by my hands. And in that moment, I was fighting and I was screaming, and because I was afraid I'm gonna die. That was my fear in that moment. Um, and when that stopped running, then she came and said, so this is where I felt it running. It ran into the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and the solar plexus chakra. So the root chakra has to do with safety and security. Okay. Sacral chakra has to do with, sensuality, creativity, and all that. And I told it it's interesting because the number one place that I felt it after you stopped, as I was crying, was in my sacral chakra, which is the womb area. Like, that's interesting. And then the solar plexus, okay, the solar plexus, which is, authority and stepping into authority and being authentic, and all that. So I'm like, that's very interesting because in that moment I couldn't be myself. I was terrified. I couldn't be myself, and I would just wanted to, be small. So, and she also said that this was a past life and you were in a dungeon. And I'm like, yep, that makes sense with what I was seeing because I shared everything with her. So that ran, and it runs up to like 48 hours after that. So it kept on running. And she did other things in there, but that was a very, very interesting experience that I had. So fast forward, day later, I finally discovered why I hated myself. Like, what exactly do I hate myself for? Because when I know what comes up, I can go and, dissolve it either myself or ask for help. But when I don't know what the heck that is, it's kind of difficult to go in there and dissolve it. So I went in there and it was like, okay, I hate being a woman. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. And also at the same time, doesn't surprise me because every time that I'm on my damn period, it's like, I hate being a woman. I hate being a woman. Like, yep. I've been telling myself that for years. So the other thing is like, I hate being different. Okay. So the things that I'm talking about, not a lot of people talk about now that we're moving the Pluto, Pluto is moving into Aquarius, which Pluto is all about the planet of transformation, and Aquarius is doing things differently, doing things newly, and all that. A lot more people are going to start, going through their shit and all that. So yeah, fun times ahead. For me and for my clients, it's not gonna be anything different because we're already doing all of this, but it might be a bit more intense, but it's okay. We already have the tools, know how to work with it and all that. So that was kind of interesting. So going back to, me hating myself and all that, I'm like, well, that's kind of it. And then I asked myself, so what exactly do I hate about being a woman? And it was the pain that I have during my period. Like, what was the pain? Well, I'm not, mad that the fact that, my body does a cleanse every month. Like, that's great. However, can we do it without the damn pain? Because it's debilitating pain. Like, I can't get out of the damn bed sometimes. It's horrible. So that was the charge there. So, and at the same time, it didn't want me to go into that. So I had a session about 2 days ago with someone else, and it was my turn to get poked on because we have I poke you, you poke me, and stuff like that. So, and I'm like, I told her everything that I went through, and I'm like, today it wants me to focus on what's that thing that makes me go back when someone says I want to work with you. So she kind of, asked me a few questions and all that. And what I landed on, it was the past life where I was burned at the stake. Yes, I do have a past life where I was burned at the stake. This is not the first time I'm trying to come here and help people. And my charge was on, I just want to help people. And the people that don't understand, like the people that are not my clients, the people that don't understand what I do, they perceive me back then, they perceive me as I'm hurting people because they don't understand what I'm doing. They don't understand how I'm doing it. Was it the same thing that I'm doing now? Probably not. But it was something different that I knew, and I knew to help people, and I did help people, but then there was these other people that didn't know what I'm doing and they perceived me hurting people. So that's why they rebelled against me. And I could literally see them. It's not the, thing that Hollywood depicts with, pitchforks and torches and all that. The way that I saw these people were just literally just pieces of wood. Like, that's all they had, pieces of wood. Which again, put that piece of wood on a flesh, it's gonna hurt. Um, and I remember just wanting to help people, like wanting to help people, and they perceived me as hurting. So she said, like, can you see how you wanted to help people? It might have come across as hurting people because of the way that you went about it. And I'm like, well, crap. So that was one thing. The other thing was that with her questioning, I landed on a time in this lifetime where I remember being at school. It was high school, being at school, and I was in the middle of a test. And my period came and just started hurting. And it hurt so damn bad. And I was trying to concentrate. I think I did this a couple of times. I was trying to concentrate with my test, and I just was crying and I was crying and I was crying. And I had my best friend right next to me. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm fine." And just keep on going. She's like, "No, you're not fine." So she was the one that got the teacher's attention. And we both got excused because she needed to get me home. Um, so, and it was in that moment where I said that I would rather um take a test than take care of myself. So that was a huge one for me. And I was just bawling at that moment, like, holy cow. So then we traced it back to where this came from. And I remember at 6 years old, I think I got beaten 2 times. But it was the second time that I don't quite remember, it's a bit fuzzy, but I know I got beaten one time. And then I didn't want to do my homework. Kid doesn't want to do homework, want to play instead. Me being a kid. But my mom, said otherwise. So I remember her in the back of me with a damn ruler, that, I'm gonna beat you if you don't, finish your homework. So it was that fear. It was that fear of, I'm gonna get physically hurt if I don't finish this test, if I don't pass this test, if I don't, do well in school. That was keeping me in that moment with terrible pain, crying, keep on going, which was huge for me to realize because every time, and it carried out throughout life, it carried out throughout my childhood, like, and I see how it served me because I was, one of the top 3 people in my class in high school. I was a valedictorian in my college. I'm excellent at everything that I do, and people are just like, "How the heck do you do that?" Well, I don't know, but I know that this had an impact in my life because of how my life turned out. So she helped me see, and she's like, "Can you see how?" In the moment where a person is telling you, "Hey, I want to work with you," can you see how, you know, you're perceiving it if you don't deliver to them, if you don't, do well with that, you're gonna get physically punished because you're 6 years old, your 6-year-old kicks in and you revert back to that moment and you go like this. And I'm like, well, crap. So I got through that moment and all that. And up until this point, I have not replied to a comment on social media in 5 weeks. The way that I know that is because I went through my Facebook thing. And the last comment that was placed was the 5 weeks ago. I'm like, well, then. So I went the first time of 5 weeks, I cleared that out. I went and um I replied to everyone on social media. And it was interesting to see all of that. And it was interesting because I've been doing astrology lately. I've been drawn into that and I've gotten myself so many answers as to why this and why this and why this and why this is playing out. And everything in my chart is pointing to me communicating, speaking what I'm going through because it's gonna help other people. And I have had multiple people telling me that. Um, and I have to be in front of there. Like I have to show, my face and share what I'm going through because it's gonna help other people. And the other thing that I am struggling with is the sexual energy around me. Um, and I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable being a woman because, women are seen like this and women are seen like that. Which I do remember specifically when I was 15, and the body that I had back then, how I would attract men's attention, and I didn't like it. And I am aware now that what I did to manage that was to gain weight That was one reason. Second reason why I started gaining weight was, well, second reason I wanted to feel safe. So, all that. But it was very interesting how my subconscious started doing that. And this another reason was because I didn't know if people were talking to me or wanting to be with me, either friends or whatever, because of how I looked or because of my knowledge. So that was another reason why I transformed my body. And now going into it even more with everything that I've learned, I was like, my conscious mind didn't know why I'm doing this, but my subconscious was starting not to take care of me, like, not going out, not exercising. Um, I'm eating the way I kind of always ate, like 1 or 2 meals a day. It doesn't necessarily matter. I don't have a necessarily time when I eat. Um, but it's like not taking care of my body, not taking care of, my hair, my teeth, my whatever, because I want to camouflage myself so that they will not find me. What they from, past life. Because I don't want to be prosecuted again. I don't want to go through all that shit again. And yes, I'm very aware of the shit that I've been through in the past life when I try to do this again. And I have gone through that in layers. This is just another layer that came out. So now it makes sense. It makes sense why I subconsciously not choose not to take care of myself so that they won't recognize me and they won't find me and they won't take me away and I won't die. It makes sense. Okay. Um, and also with looking at my chart, like I have placements in there. Like I was just looking at Black Moon Lilith, and that is in my third house, which the third house I have Capricorn and Sagittarius, and it's going to be for me speaking out. Like people are going to judge me for speaking out. People are going to judge me for the career that I'm going to build because it's Capricorn. Capricorn is all about career and building and success. They're going to judge me for that. And then I have Sagittarius in there as well. And Sagittarius is all about, traveling and culture and all that. So people from other cultures might judge me and all that. It's quite interesting. And I'm like, that sounds exactly like what I've been through the damn past life, where, people were judging me for, sharing my knowledge, sharing my wisdom, and sharing, a new way to break free from shit because Sagittarius is all about freedom, learning, freedom, traveling, culture, and all that. And I'm like, well, fuck. And the other placements that I have in my chart, which up until now, I was like, I don't value relationship. Like relationships has nothing to do with me. Like I haven't had a partner in over a year, which is I'm not sure if I've ever been this single, but whatever. So when I got my exact birth time and I saw that I'm a Libra ascending, I'm gone. Oh my God, no. Please no. The reason for that is that the sun is your ego. So my sun is Aquarius. The moon is your emotions, how you express your emotions, which is Sagittarius, which is fiery and all that. And um the ascendant, which is Libra for me, or your rising sign or ascendant, same damn thing, is Libra for me. So that is what your soul came here to do this lifetime. Your soul came here to do relationships. That's Libra. Libra is intimate relationships. And I'm like, God, please no. Like, that's the last thing that I want. The other interesting thing in my chart is that Libra is fully in the 12th house. Not only Libra, some other parts as well, but Libra is fully contained in the 12th house, and 12th house is past lives. So, past lives, I have a lot of karmic things to go through this lifetime around relationships, around close, intimate relationships. And I'm like, well, that makes sense because up until here, I had gone through so many lifetimes. And even in this lifetime, like so many people that have, I had to heal around intimate relationships and all that. And I'm like, well, I signed up for this because again, before you come here, before you come into this physical body, you said to yourself, this is what I want to learn this lifetime. And then people are asked like, hey, who wants to teach her this? People like go like this. Who wants to teach her this? People go like this. So I learned relationships from my mother, but I didn't learn relationships in the, this is how you do it. No, 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 no. I learned what not to do in a relationships, but she taught me relationships. That was the agreement between her and I. You teach me relationships. And she did. In the first period of my life, she taught me relationships. And what I agreed to teach her is how to get through all the shit, which is basically what I do. Um, which was very, very interesting to see it play out. And I saw that through astrology. I wouldn't be able to know anything else, any other thing if I didn't look at that. So I'm like, that's really, really interesting. And I know I have, that's called a soul contract. So you have a soul contract with yourself, which is what you want to learn this lifetime. And you have soul contracts with a bunch of other people. Now you choose how many you have because of the vision that I have of me building a new world in the 7 areas of life. Well, God damn it, I have a very huge damn contract with a lot of damn people. And I see the people coming in my life. I can see through astrology the contracts that I have. Can I see the contents of the contract? Yes and no. Okay. But I know through astrology that there is a past life tie. Okay. Now I've only gone through one time through my Akashic records, which is this is where I go back every time I'm going in a past life as Akashic records. And everyone has that. Akashic records are the records of your soul, and you store all your past lives in there. Okay. And yes, you have a past life. If you're wondering if you have a past life, yes, you have a past life because you're born under the sun. And if I look at your chart, I can tell you what you came here to learn this lifetime, probably what karma you came here to work on, what lessons you came here to learn. It's fascinating. And it's been right on, spot on with me every time that I find another piece of information. So knowing all of this and knowing that Libra is my ascendant, then I came here to do relationships. But there's a good and a bad for everything. Okay, benefits and drawbacks to everything. So the benefit is yes, that I came here to do relationships. I either, relationships with clients, relationships at work, relationships, however. Libra is closely related to intimate relationships. Okay. So then I know that I came here because Libra's in my 12th house. I came here with a lot of past life karma around intimate relationships that I came here to, and I said I'm going to work on. So like, yay me. um, and then, I have people lined up in my life to come into my life and help me heal all that. And the last person that came into my life, I could see this is the 4th lifetime that we are together. And again, I had to go into my Akasha records to dig up the records. I can see the contents of the contract that we have. I can see where I'm fulfilling mine, where he's not fulfilling his, what he needs to do to fulfill his, and all that. It's quite interesting. And I can see through astrology all the people that I have a past life tie with. I see my clients that I have a past life tie with. I see my ex-husband I have a past life tie with, and it doesn't surprise me why it felt so familiar with him. It also felt really, really familiar with a few other people in my life. So that was quite interesting. So me knowing that, me seeing that, hey, you're here to do relationships, and knowing that I have no intention to do relationships made me go like, okay, this is what I signed up for. So eventually I am going to work on what is keeping me from, having an intimate relationships and going into that, which I know 2 things came up. Yes, it has to do around with my sexuality. I don't, want to attract people just for my body. I want them to look at my brain too. But it came to, I don't want to attract someone because I might get pregnant. And if I get pregnant, then I'm not going to be able to fulfill this vision, which is my biggest fear. And the other thing is, even, if I attract a partner, I have a tendency as a Libra to lose myself in another person. Okay. So if you have a tendency to lose yourself in another person, you might have a very strong Libra placement in your chart, either the sun, the moon, the ascendant, or a lot of planets in the seventh house or in Libra, because the houses in Libra doesn't necessarily have to be, seventh house Libra. Like my Libra's in the 12th house, and in the seventh house, I think I have one or two things in there which are not actually planets, it's something else, some asteroids. But I found that fascinating. So that what astrology made me do in that moment was like, okay, I am here to do relationships, and that kind of calmed it down. The other thing is, around physical appearance. Because again, you choose everything, you design your life, you design the people that you're going to meet before you're born. So the fact that you're seeing this video right now, you agreed to this. And the fact that I'm making this video right now, I agreed to this. So there you go. Um, but also another thing from my chart, I was able to see, and this is another thing that I will eventually come to terms with, that I'm very attractive based on my chart. There's nothing that I could do that would make me less attractive because it's written in the damn stars. So if you have a Libra ascendant, that automatically makes your soul attractive and magnetized. And I can't tell you how many people have told me, you look beautiful without makeup. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you. And like the last person that came into my life, I was like I am right now, and loose clothes and all that. And he was still attracted to me. I'm like, how? Like, how the heck are you still attracted to me? Now I know. It's because of my placements. I have Libra rising, which is Venus. Venus is the ruler of Libra. Okay. And then I also have Scorpio in the first half. Now, Scorpio, if you don't know, Scorpio's energy, this is the most sexual zodiac sign of them all. Okay. Because of that mystical scorpionic allure, and it pulls you in and draws you in, and it's very, very magnetic. And people have told me, like, I don't know why I'm drawn to you, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is why. So those are two things that I've discovered. But well, I have discovered a plethora of things in my birth chart, but those are the two things that I discovered in my birth chart that made me go like, oh fuck, I signed up for this. I better, clean up the shit that I perceive around, not wanting to be in an intimate relationship, or, having issues with being seen as a sexual being and all that. Because I signed up for both of these this lifetime. So that was very, very interesting for me to see. And after that great purge yesterday, I was actually able to go and finish a presentation that is going to be included in also my course in my one-day event. So I'm done with that. Not only did I narrow down the story that I want to share as to why I'm doing both the course and, the one-day event to promote the course and all that, but to how I want, the thing moving forward. And basically I didn't have anyone teaching me this when I was little, and I would have really, really appreciated someone to teach me this when I was a teenager, because, my teenage years would have been a lot different. Okay. So that's the main reason. But there's a series of events that happened to get me to this point to be like, okay, so here you go. You can utilize this too. And knowing all of this is very interesting. And I was actually sharing a lot of this with someone else, and she was like her reaction was like, well, that sounds like a lot of pain. And I'm like, well, pain is subjective, because if you decide to let go of what you perceive as painful to you, you're not going to feel pain anymore. She's like, but that's still a lot of pain. And like, well, only people that don't know an alternative will think and say that, that's painful. For me, what's most painful than going through it is not going through it, because I know what's costing me. I know that if I don't let go of my shit, it's going to cost me building this vision, which is really, really important to me. And if I don't do that, I feel like I have no purpose, and I'm like, what the heck am I even doing here? Okay. And second thing, I have promised all of these people that I will do this and I will help them get rid of their shit so they can, learn the lessons that they came here to learn. They said that they're going to learn so that their soul can evolve. Because here's the thing, if you do not learn your lessons this lifetime, you are going to come into another lifetime just like I did, because again, I wanted to do this years ago, but I didn't do it in the correct way, and I got burned on the stake. Fun times. So now I, chose something different, like, let's see if we can do it this way. Okay. You will come into another lifetime with the same damn objectives. So think about this as a game that you're playing. Okay. You're the main character in your damn game. Okay. You have a series of objectives for your game. Okay. Like, if you don't hit this objective, well, guess what? You're going to come here to do next lifetime. If you hit some objectives, great. Those objectives are going to be then, you've learned this, and this. Great. You're not going to do that again, but you're going to learn this, and this, let's say, and some other things. Okay. So I don't want to come in here again, go through all this shit again, and, have a massive contract like I do right now. So I'm very aware that if I do not go through my shit and let go of whatever the heck is there, I'm gonna come back again and go through the same damn thing. So because of that, I choose to let it go. And yes, it's going to be painful, but it's going to be painful only in that moment. Because once you dissolve all the emotions that you stored around the event is meaningless. So our life is inherently empty and meaningless. We choose the meaning that we bring to the events that come into our life. So the goal here is not to, well, let me rephrase it. You came here, first of all, to heal yourself. You cannot heal yourself without a physical body. That is not possible. Okay. So your first goal, you came here to heal yourself. Period. Once you heal yourself, and this is exactly what happened to me. Once I started letting go of the layers of shit that I piled on, because here's what you do. You go and you say, okay, I want to learn this, and this. You have the people in your life. You do your astrological chart and all that. Great. And now you're born. Okay. Once you're born, from ages 0 to 8, you're going to take on the traits and the actions and the mentality of the people that are around you, which is usually mom and dad. From there, up until today, you're going to pack on more shit on top of your purpose, because once you decide to get born, the price that you pay for that, you forget why you went there in the first place. Ironic, I know. But you can go on YouTube. There are cases, documentation, documentaries of children remembering their past lives. And up to a certain point, if you are aware of this, you can ask your child, If they remember something, or if they say something like, oh, that was really intelligent, where'd you get that from? Just ask. Keep on asking your child where you get that from. You will eventually land that it came from a past life. I have seen videos of people remembering that they were in Titanic. Children remembering that they were in the Civil War, how they died, where they died, exact location, name, and all that. It's fascinating. And yes, we all can remember that. And the way that I started remembering all this was letting go of my shit. And the other thing that you agreed to choose your mom and dad. And with the mom and dad that you chose, you agreed all the way up the lineage to take on that shit as well. So even before you're born, you come in with baggage from the lineage. And then from 0 to 8, you get your programming, okay, your how you're going to act from here on out. And from there, past life memories got put on, no, sorry, current life memories and experiences got put on your purpose, or the reason why you came here to do anything. Once I started uncovering all of that, I started feeling the pull. Like, it's pulling me to LA. Well, why the heck is that? Well, because it's pulling me there, but why? So I didn't get a why until I moved to down LA. That was a whole other story, how the heck I got to LA. But my point is, you don't know what is stopping you from going after what you want, from doing what you want, from being with the people that you want until you let it go. And here's the thing, and I've been going back and forth with my friend on this, that I don't believe in marriage because I know these soul contracts. And these soul contracts, once they're fulfilled, there's no reason for two people to be together anymore because the contract is fulfilled. So that is why I don't believe in marriage. It's not because I don't believe in love. It's because of this concept. And I have seen it in my own life. Yes, I have married my ex-husband. I came here and all that, and I see how that played out, and I see up until when it needed to play out, and then we're good. And I actually went back and I dug up when marriages were made a thing. It's not that long since marriages were made a thing. I think it was like 12th century, 1, 2. So like, okay, so what the heck did people do before that? So that is why I believe that marriages are a man-made construct. And you will see a lot of these things shifting from Pluto being now in Aquarius. And it's going to be there for the next 20 to 40 years. And if you want to see a preview of that, just go back from the beginning of the year in January all the way up until September 1st. What happened in your life over there? That's Pluto in Aquarius. Because from September 1st until November 19th, Pluto went back into Capricorn. And Capricorn is like the father of the zodiac, and it's like building like empires in a traditional way and all that. It has everything to do with tradition. Okay. Well, Aquarius has nothing to do with tradition. I can vouch for that because I'm an Aquarius Sun and Aquarius North Node, which again, North Node is what you came here to do this lifetime, which is pretty cool if you get to study your North Node like I did. And everything is on point. Everything that was pulling me and calling me to do, it's my North Node. It's playing out. And then you also have your South Node, which is your past lives. And what you mastered in past lives, and it's now out of balance, and I came here to balance it out. My past life is Leo. It was all about me. Now the way that I do my business is all about the client. It's all about the people. So it's quite interesting. So again, with Pluto moving into Aquarius, all the cans of worms, all the skeletons in the closet, they're gonna come out. They're gonna come out, and it's going to be interesting for those people that do not know how to look for signs, look for cues, look for things. Like, I scan my body on a daily basis. Like, do I feel any pains? Like, where's the pain? I know how to ask a question to release what's there. or I notice things like I share with you, like I notice this pattern, like where is this coming from? And before I could even go and see where it's coming from, like I noticed there's a resistance there. So okay, so let's work on the resistance first, which is what I did. So if you don't have this knowledge, it's gonna be a rude awakening for you. It really is. And I can't sugarcoat that because that's just how it's going to be. But for people that have been even remotely exposed to this, it's probably a good idea to find someone that can help you go through whatever it is that you're going through. And, from November 19th, it's going to be quite an interesting ride for the next 20 to 40 years. Um, so, and you have a bunch of people that can help you out. You can vibe with me, vibe with someone else, doesn't matter. Um, well, that is what I'm getting on my end. Like and it's astrology, and astrology is just phenomenal. It's phenomenal how damn accurate it is. Like people have predicted COVID-19 from freaking astrology. And I didn't even know that. And they didn't know it was COVID-19. They just knew it was some viral thing that is going to have us be indoors. COVID-19, there you go. So everything that has to do with planets aligning and all that is really, really spot on. And the last thing I want to share is that we're going to a very interesting time frame, because on the 17th of September, there was a full moon in Pisces with an eclipse. That's very, very heavy, because the full moon in Pisces is the past lives and all that, and eclipse energy, it magnifies that, it brings shit to life. Then you had the equinox in the autumn equinox on the 22nd, which was in Libra. Libra is all about relationships. And also we have the solar eclipse on the 2nd of October. And also on the 2nd of October is a new moon. So that's going to be freaking double the thing. New moon, I've forgotten what it is, but the solar eclipse is going to be in Libra. Libra, again, is all about relationships. So if your relationship currently, you're experiencing something in your relationships, it's because of this whole energy that's going on with the stars. And for me, I don't have an intimate relationship. However, I believe that the most intimate relationship that you could ever have is with yourself. And that is why I am, feeling it. I'm feeling it, and it's calling me to, release this and release this, because it doesn't serve me, and it doesn't serve me, it doesn't serve me. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. If you're experiencing something in the relationship area, that is why. Okay. So that's just a bit of an update about me, and hopefully it has helped you too. And I will see you in a later video. Take care.